Hello and welcome back to another episode of Gaming the System, the podcast where three intersectional feminists examine gaming and games through a feminist lens. I'm your host for today, I'm Jem, and I'm here with my friends Alex and Matt. So before we get started, if you want to support us, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gaming the system for some exclusive content, or you can send us a one-off donation via PayPal to our email address, wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com.
This session, we thought we would have a look at some of the interesting and exciting headlines that have been making the gaming news recently. So we've selected a few that we think might intrigue and provide an interesting discussion point for our favourite topics. And then if anyone's got any other ones they want to bring to the table, feel free to do that, and we'll chat about those. But before we get started, I thought that we were very overdue. What are we playing? Check-in, because I haven't heard from either of you about what you're playing, other than To a T, which we did talk a bit about.
Of course.
But other than that, I'd like an update from you both.
Mm-hmm. I've had a bit of a gaming drought, honestly. Apart from To a T that we talked about in the previous episode, I've just been sort of pootling about here and there, and in a little to the left, I've still got a bit of the last DLC that I haven't finished. And I tell you why, you know what time of year it is. It's basically the move from the clay season in tennis into the grass season, which is a very busy time of year for a tennis fan to be watching lots of tennis. So I haven't necessarily been spending a lot of time gaming, but the gaming that I have done has been very chill and sort of non-committal, I suppose. It's not very story heavy. So it's been very chilled and nice. But yeah, I definitely haven't been locked into gaming as much as I am at other times, I would say. But yes, I'd love to hear about what everyone else is doing.
I think I think summer is one of those times when other things tend to get in the way, and the less dark evenings and the warmer. Although recently it hasn't been so warm, but I think it's also not very conducive. I mean, obviously it depends on your curtains and your setup, but I have my setup in the lounge, and
I can see the sun in mine. It's coming streaming through. Yeah.
So it gets quite difficult to play like anything too intense because you've got the sun streaming in, getting in the way.
Yeah.
So what about you, Matt? What have you been playing?
I've been having a very exciting time because I've at last played Fallout New Vegas.
Oh.
Spent 100 hours in it.
Wow.
Absolutely mined it for every ounce of it, I think. Although Finn would probably tell me a billion things that I've missed, because I believe they said that it was their favourite RPG before Baldur's Gate 3.
Wow.
So that was a really interesting take on it, and I loved it. It's a bloody masterpiece. I took a screenshot of every bit of awesome writing that I found, and I've got hundreds of screenshots. It's just that just right tone of surrealism. And one of my favourite things is you have to go, and there's a hotel that has a client that wants a sex robot. And they're just called sex bots, but they're quite rare to find. And you have to go and find one, and you you reprogram it to be a sex bot. And its name is FISTO. So it's just called Fisto the sex bot.
Wow.
And so that's just one of those things. I burst out laughing multiple times doing it. It's awesome and big and fun, and it crashed a lot, but I worked out that the only thing that I really needed for it was to move a little bit faster, because in the original Fallout and Fallout New Vegas, there's one movement speed, there's no sprint.
Yeah.
And so I literally just installed the one mod, which was move a little bit faster, and then that allowed me to like, with a fair bit of stability, fight my way through the wasteland and find all these awesome things. But the most exciting development is I went into the Warhammer store away from the train with me and played my first ever game of Warhammer 40k.
Wow, what? That's so
in the store.
In store.
That's amazing. That's so good.
Yeah.
How was
And
it?
I've been building up to that for such a long time, and to actually go and do it, it feels awesome. And we played like a 10-minute game with 2 units fighting each other.
That's
But just straight away, it's just awesome, and I'm really excited.
brilliant.
So excited that I've added a new unit to my little army.
Uh-huh. Oh, wow.
This is Typhus, the Herald of Nurgle.
Very.
Just
Did you paint it yourself as well?
no. That's the one part of the hobby that I couldn't care less about.
Yeah. It's
fortunately.
very time consuming painting.
Yeah, it's
That's
just.
very cool.
I was scarred by making model aeroplanes as a child, and there's just something about the smell of that paint that just makes me feel a bit sick.
It
Which
quite
is
strong.
it kind of makes sense for these pestilential. They're the Death Guard, the Legion of Contagion of Pestilence. So it would fit them really nicely. So that's a massively exciting development
Brilliant.
that I've had.
Did you have to arrange with them before? Did you have to say, like, I'm coming in, is there anything going on? Or did you just turn up and somebody was available to play? Or I've never done.
So I sent. Yeah, I just sent a message to their Facebook page, and he said, "Come along sometime next week when he's in the store," and just said he works there from Tuesday to Saturday, and just said, "Right, come in at some point next week and we'll have a chat and I'll walk you through a game." And so went, okay, picked a time, went in. It was empty when I got there, which was just a bit of luck. And so he was able to have a little conversation with me. He's called Gary, really nice guy, really good, very well suited to being the first point of contact for people. And because everyone comes into the Warhammer 40k universe a different way. So some people only do the painting, some people like to collect the models, some people play, some people read, and some people only play the video games. And he was just brilliant, so it went really well, and I'm really glad I did it.
Nice.
Oh,
That's lovely.
yeah, I know. That's awesome. Well, yeah, my gaming is a bit not all sort of video games. So I've been a bit thick with my video games. Anyone who knows me on Steam would have seen me bouncing about all over the place. I've been in and out of all sorts of stuff. So I've been playing a little bit of, now I can't remember any of the games that I've been playing. I've been playing a bit of RimWorld yesterday, and before I went away, I'd been playing a lot of Valheim. Then we were playing a lot of Grounded, and then we went on holiday. So then that kind of put a break in there. And so since I got back, I've also downloaded 12 Minutes.
I've heard about
which is just, yeah, it's fun. And I'm playing it on I started playing it on my mobile, but I'm now playing it on my tablet because it's so diddy on the mobile. It's just difficult to actually move the guy around. I'm doing really badly at it. I'm so bad at these kind of puzzle games. But I got it through Netflix games, and I don't know if you've come across that, but if you have a Netflix account, then you can access games that elsewhere you have to pay for. So, they're not they're not all massively expensive games, but some of them are ones that I have bought through Steam already, and I'm kind of like, oh, I wish I knew about this, because I would have just got it through Netflix. So that's just a little tip. If you're thinking about getting a game, don't assume that it's all just the little like rubbishy games. It's also some of the more sort of complicated ones that you will see on Steam. So yeah, check that out if you have a Netflix account. So, but I've also been quite obsessively playing 2 board games on Board Game Arena, which I don't know if either of you have come across, but it's sort of like, I think did we play the library game via?
Oh yeah,
That might have been that, but
worked on it.
yeah, but Board Game Arena is excellent for playing board games online with friends or strangers, but it's also a really good way to try out games that you might not want to go out and buy, because you get to go through the tutorial and you get to give them a go. And obviously, you know, some of these games cost 50 quid and up. You know, they're comparable to video games really in their prices when you're buying a box. So it's quite a good way to test it out without having to shell out loads of money. And I've been playing Res Arcana and Terraforming Mars, and playing with a couple of friends, Finn and Caroline. But also there's another person in there as well. So yeah, it's been really fun. Just as soon as we finish one game, we immediately start all over again, and it's just you just do your moves whenever you can, you know. So you take it in turns, but you do your moves and you have time. So sometimes people are away or they've got work or whatever, so then it takes longer. So it can take 3 weeks to get through a game. It can be a bit confusing, remembering what you were going to do and where you got to and everything. But yeah, no, it's been quite fun to do that, and I can do that on my mobile, so I can just do that wherever I am as well. So yeah, but I'm feeling that kind of gaming itch at the moment, but I haven't quite found the game that's right for me. And yeah, but I think, like we were saying earlier, I think it might just also be the weather. You know, some time of the year and the weather and the just that situation, isn't it? So thank you so much for that. It was really nice to hear updates, and yeah, well done, Matt. I'm really impressed. You'll be down there all the time before you know it.
Fingers crossed.
So, shall we get on with some of these news stories then? Okay, so the first one I thought we could kick off with is the Nintendo Switch 2, which has just come out on the 5th of June, so just last week. And it's already sold a ridiculous amount of units. I think it's sold 3.5 million units sold in the first 4 days. The UK is one of their worst areas, one of their worst sort of zones, but this is Nintendo. But even here, they've sold 160,000 units, which is compared to, I think, around 110,000 that they sold of the Switch. So it's a massive increase, really. And those sales probably helped by the fact that there's been a lot of problem with people getting hold of units. So
sounds a bit like when we all tried to get PlayStation 5.
PlayStation 5, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think apparently Game had taken a load of pre-orders and then just cancelled them all without any explanation. So that upset a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether you've heard, but there's been a little bit of controversy around the Switch 2 because they want to use game key cards. So rather than giving you a card that has the whole game on it, they want to give you a card which gives you an access code to download the game. So some people were concerned about this, especially when combined with the fact that it's in there, EULA, they appear to say that they can disable consoles if they think that you're pirating or modding. And so some people had got very concerned that this meant that effectively you didn't own your Switch, that they own it and they can just switch it off if they want to. Nintendo have come back and said, no, that's not how it is. They're not only going to be doing virtual games. You will be able to resell your game key cards and other people will be able to then download the games. And also, no, they're not planning to just switch your Nintendo Switches off if you do something that upsets them. But it did cause this big sort of controversy. So yeah, I was just wondering, have you heard anything about it? What are your thoughts on the Switch 2? Do you think it's something that we need? Is it bringing more energy to the games industry? Apparently it's not massively different from the Switch. So some people have sort of said it's a little bit iterative. It's nothing new, but maybe we don't need anything new. Have we reached the edge of consoles? Is there anything new that can be done? I'm just opening the floor to you both.
Well, I'm not a Nintendo player. If I had to say what I was, I'd probably say I game mostly on PlayStation. But when you were saying about the controversy over the rules around people modding and that sort of thing, and how they might get funny, it sparked a memory for me. I think we were doing an episode on esports, and I remember there was a lot of outcry from the disability community because in some of the sort of smaller competitions that they were running, disabled gamers weren't allowed to use their adapted controllers because they were a modification that wasn't allowed. So they have like a track record for this sort of modding sort of attitude, but I don't know whether that comes from there or if it's just they do tend to be quite hot on that sort of thing, I think. But yeah, I mean, I've heard all say that it's not too different from the Switch 1 or the original Switch, but I think Nintendo has a valid place within the gaming pantheon, if you want to call it that, because it has quite a large and dedicated fan base, I would say. And I think Nintendo are always really good for like multiplayer party games and just bringing people together in that way. And they've got like, IPs that everyone knows, like Mario and Legend of Zelda and stuff like that. So yeah, they definitely have a place within gaming. But I don't know whether, like you say, have we reached the edge of consoles? It's a big question. But yeah, I'm not sure as far as that goes. They have tried to innovate slightly with the little things that you hold. Like there was one game I noticed, it's come out, I think it's called Drag and Drive, but it's written down as Drag X Drive, but apparently it's pronounced like and for some reason. But it's basically you play a wheelchair basketballer, and to control the chair you have to sort of push each of the controllers along as if you're wheeling yourself. Turn. So that's quite innovative. I think it's one of those games where I suspect there's a lot of novelty to begin with, but once you've done it for like maybe a couple of hours, you've kind of done it. And yeah, I mean, it's nice to see though. I think it's cool that they're trying to feature, obviously, that kind of representation in gaming as well, and the mechanics behind it are good. But I could definitely see me as a wheelchair user, having used manual chairs, getting to grips faster with perhaps the way to turn the chair and things like that than someone who isn't a wheelchair user would. But yeah, that's one of the things I picked up from the release. And also, they've got their Mario Kart World. That's kind of like their flagship thing. And the graphics have improved slightly, but not massively, I think. So yeah, I'm not sure how big a difference, because it's quite a price difference, isn't it? I'm not sure how much it's selling for.
Yeah, that was one of the things that people were quite angry about, because apparently it started out at $449.99, and that's about like $350 or something like that, which is pounds. So that's and also their repairability has dropped to 3 out of 10. I'm not sure what the previous one was, but I think 3 out of 10 is a really low score.
Yeah, it's pretty poor. That's a worry as well, isn't it? Because of course the Switches are very portable, and so the likelihood of them being damaged is probably quite high, I should expect. So it'd be a worry for me if I was looking into it.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, because when I was sort of prepping for today, one of the things that came up is just that there's a general increase in people's awareness and appreciation of the environmental impact of gaming. And one of those things is this thing about, do we need a new Switch? Yeah, the cost of just the electronics and the actual cost of building the Switch to replace the new one is environmentally very high. If it's not that different and it can't be fixed as easily, then there is quite a big environmental cost to buying a Switch. And I think we haven't really thought a lot about these things in the past, but people are beginning to kind of think about this stuff a little bit more carefully, a little bit more mindful about, do I need to buy that new bit of kit, or can I just carry on with my existing one? So, yeah. What do you think, Matt?
The Nintendo Switches have never appealed to me. I used to have the original Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance, and then played a fair bit on the Nintendo DS, a little bit on the 3DS as well. Pokemon has always been the only thing that I've really cared for from Nintendo. Nintendo is has a very strange place in the game market, because it's tried a few consoles over the years, but none of them have stuck the way that the Nintendo Switch has. And that's clearly, it's very, very popular, the kind of games and the kind of gaming that the Switch allows people to do. And Nintendo has got a track record of they have like a very old person's perspective on what gaming should be. Is going, right, we've made our games, you buy our games, and we're not doing anything there's no flexibility in their terms of their business of allowing like differences. And people, like with Baldur's Gate 3, they literally build the ability to make mods into it because that's what they want people to be able to do, and so they limit themselves and their players and customers unnecessarily, and they also don't do it very well, because there are an unbelievable number of emulators and places to download these old games for free. And the core thing with the Switch, which is why the increases in prices, especially in terms of the games, because the new Mario game is going to be $80 for the standard edition, and it's not like with PlayStation or Xbox or PC games. If you buy God of War Ragnarok, you're getting a 200 gigabyte game that is pushing the boundaries of what is possible, and when you spend big money on any console or PC game, the expectation is that they're going to be pushing the envelope in some way. They're going to be using the latest technology to to create something that is worth that amount of money. Whereas with a console that is only handheld, they've got a very, very limited technical capacity to build into. So you can't make a game like a Mario game and make it only for a handheld console and make it rich enough to be worth the same as a console game. And it just feels like they want to be alongside the consoles and PCs now that go up, because when the PlayStation 5 comes out, it's a generation ahead of the last one, and when a new graphics card comes out, it's going to be a generation ahead of ones that even were like 5 years ago. So massive boundaries are being moved consistently in these other areas, but the Switch, you just can't justify it. It hasn't even got it hasn't got the same resolution as my phone does. It's getting to the point where most new phones are going to be as powerful, if not more powerful than this, and more versatile. And you'll be able to get an emulator on your phone and do anything that you can with this. So it's just a very odd place in the market, and people are buying it, so good for them. But it's just one of those places where you go, right, this could be so much better, and it just isn't for no reason.
I think that's really interesting, actually. So I'm obviously the only Switch owner in this group, and I'm not going to be rushing out to buy the Switch 2 because I don't think that it adds anything that.
Can you hear Jem?
No, we've lost Jem.
You've got Jem. There you are.
There you are.
Am I back?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
You've muted yourself again.
Oh.
Right. Start again. Yes, Matt, I completely agree with what you were saying, and I think I'm the only Switch owner amongst us. So I think we got a Switch in the early days of the pandemic, if I recall.
You've gone quiet again, Jem.
Can you hear me now? Right, how's that? Is that any better?
That's better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is my video stopped starting as well?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what the issue is. Hopefully it's recording all right at this end anyway.
But yeah, you're saying you.
So I'm the only one with the Switch, and we got it in the pandemic primarily for Animal Crossing. And I think you're right that one of the things that I noticed quite early on was I was like, oh, I could stream my gaming or something. No, you can't do that. Nintendo lock all that stuff down. They'll let you record a few seconds, but they won't let you take any more than that. And so they are really closed in how and what you can do with the gaming. And I think part of that means that they've got this sort of separate world within which they have control of what games you can and can't use. So if you're into the Nintendo universe, then that's great. You're gonna use their kit and buy their games and all of that. But obviously it's less likely to pull people in from other universes. And for me, I don't feel that the Switch 2 is offering anything new right now. I'm not very into the Nintendo world games-wise. I like the concept of the handheldness of the Switch. Saying that, I almost always play it plugged into the TV. And I think if you want a handheld console, then the Steam Deck or a mobile phone or a tablet are all perfectly viable options these days for most games. And I certainly wouldn't, I know you can play some of the high-end AAA games on the Switch, but you, as you said, Matt, you lose all the graphics. Even if you're playing it on a TV screen, it still doesn't have the same sort of power as a PlayStation, Xbox, or PC. So why would you spend almost as much? Because that was the other thing about Nintendo traditionally, was that it was a cheaper console, and it was a social gaming tool. But these days, a lot of those things have gone out the window. And yes, it is still cheaper than your PlayStations and your Xboxes, but not enough. And as you've said, when you're still paying 80 quid for a game, then it comes down to, is it really worth it? Especially when you can get an emulator and play a lot of the games on other formats, which is obviously
having this
legal.
This comes quite a serendipitous, because my sister has gotten massively into playing Fortnite all of a sudden the last few weeks, and she's been back into gaming for nearly a year now, and she's been playing on my PS5, and she got a new laptop recently, and I was trying to convince her to invest in a cheap gaming laptop, because she can get one that is a graphics card for like 2 years ago for £700. So an incredibly ultra powerful but affordable PC gaming thing. And she went, oh no, I don't want to invest in that. And I was like, okay, fine. And she's just come to me recently and said, oh, what kind of handheld gaming consoles should you think of, and the options to those? And I immediately go, well, the new Switch is stupid expensive. She's already got a Switch, but she wants something that she can play Fortnite on and plug it into TV, so it needs to have an HDMI cable. And so she's got a new Switch to buy, or she can buy a Steam Deck. But no matter what she buys of those things, they're going to be £400 plus. And if you go, right, I'm going to, at minimum, I'm going to have to invest £400 into this thing, I may as well go, well, for this same, a little bit more of this, I can get something that is wildly more powerful, wildly more versatile, and just is better on every single like metric you can have, and go, oh, but I like the Switch, I like Nintendo, I want to play the Nintendo games. It gets harder and harder as the prices go up and up to make that
a justifiable choice. Yeah.
Justifiable choice, yeah.